It's time once again for the Passion to Succeed podcast, where we explore the traits, mindsets, and attitudes of passionate and successful individuals. This show is for anyone who wants to make a difference, make more money, learn from the greatest minds, and discover how to be more successful in all you do and doing it with a pure passion to succeed. Here's your host, serial entrepreneur, successful author, and the world's most passionate master coach, Craig White.
Welcome and hello again, I'm Craig White. This podcast show, as always, is proudly brought to you by Passion to Succeed, and I am feeling passionate today. I'm stoked, I'm buzzing, and I've got a question for you guys. What's your culture for success? What environment do you find yourself in? What is your environment that you're in and you look to create for success and influence on a daily basis? I'm buzzing for today's show, and we have a truly inspirational guy, a guy that has a wealth and background of success, a billionaire in business and a billionaire in contribution. Today, we have a show with a fantastic guy, Mr. John Rochon Jr. Now, for me, John is most certainly the blueprint for success. I've been very lucky to have partnered with John and spent some quality time with him all over the world to date. And this guy gives ownership. Joe, his leadership, his focus is about giving ownership. He gives power to the people through bringing them together as one force, as one family, and stepping out of the way and side by side. Now, for me, that is true leadership. So welcome to today's show, Mr. John Rochon. Welcome and hello again, I'm Craig White. This podcast show is proudly brought to you by Passion to Succeed. Hey guys, you know, it's great to be connecting with you again. I've got a fantastic guy on the show today. But what I like to do at the beginning of all our shows is ask you a question, kind of open up your mind, get your brain thinking a little bit. And I wanted to ask you, what's your culture? What's your environment for success? What environment do you find yourself in? What culture are you creating for others and yourself to succeed? Because for me, the guy we've got on today's show really does create a great culture and a great environment. And on today's show, we do have a truly inspirational guy, a guy that has a wealth and a background of success, a billionaire in business and a billionaire in contribution. For me, John is the blueprint for success. I've been very lucky to have partnered with John over some recent months and spent some quality time with him around the world, getting to know this guy, and he's an absolute inspiration. Do you know, he gives ownership, gives power to the people through bringing them together as one force, one family, and stepping out of the way and side by side. Now, for me, that is true leadership. So welcome to today's show, John. It's really a pleasure to have you on with us today, just to be able to converse with you and have a chat with a really passionate guy. I know you're really busy traveling the world, and you mentioned to me you haven't been home for a month, so I'm very grateful, and I'm sure our listeners are as well. So where are you today? Where in the world are you?
Well, first of all, it's a pleasure to be with you, and today I am actually in Seaside, Florida, a place with probably some of the prettiest beaches in the world.
Wow. Do you know, somewhere I've still yet to visit, and I think my personal experience of the US at the moment is New York, which is a beautiful city, and then Miami, which is just mind-blowing. I went there and decided I need an apartment in Miami, but Florida and getting to that seaside area, I guess, is and that part of Florida you were talking about, I think would be a fantastic achievement. So you're talking to us from the beach then, John?
I am looking at it as I speak, and it's gorgeous. There is a storm rolling in, but it's beautiful to see it against the sun. It's absolutely gorgeous.
Fantastic. Well, hey, look, you know, obviously we've partnered recently, John, and as I said, I've spent some time with you in a few different countries around the world, getting to know you a little bit. And I believe for me, like myself, you've had an amazing family around you. I mean, my first meeting was actually with your father prior to meeting yourself, John Rochon Sr. And do you know what? Bizarrely, I remember, and it'll always stay with me for the rest of my life, because for me, people skills and leadership and feeling valuable and also making others feel valuable is really important. And I'll never forget the day I met your father, and when from a simple handshake, the guy took my breath away, made me feel warm. And do you know, it's just amazing really how a simple action can actually kind of almost hand over power, and not power so to speak, maybe that's the wrong words, but just make you feel welcome, make you feel warm. Since then I've learned a little about your family, I guess, the values you share, the heart, the culture that I mentioned previously, the environment, and I guess not only that you create and contribute to, but like me, you was born into such an empowering environment of, do you know what, John? Yes, you can. I mean, tell us a little bit about your environment. I mean, I know obviously, as I said, you're contributing and creating this environment and taking it to a new level. But tell me a little bit about your life and, you know, what's kind of maybe ingrained some of your key philosophies and values.
Well, I think that's probably the most important question you can ask anybody. And for me, I think it's always intriguing to see and hear the stories of where people come from, successful or on their way to being successful. And so many people look at having successful parents as a potential hurdle in life. I actually embraced it. And when I say my parents were and are successful, but not only were they really good parents, but they're hardworking and have taught all of their kids that hard work is in the core of being successful. But with my dad, who is my inspiration, it's who I look up to, it's who I pattern my daily life after, how he treats people and how he cares for people, that even if he's known them for 1 second, he treats them with dignity and respect. I learned that because my father was never home when I was growing up. He was always working. He was flying around the world. But his system, so to speak, was to call me every day, check in, listen to me, make sure that my childhood stories were not falling on deaf ears. But my dad was a phenomenal father even while he was traveling. And that really is what I've carried on, is that a lot of people ask what it takes to be successful, and it really takes people wanting to be connected to others and really loving the stories and loving the people behind it. So I think that's a part of what I think works for us is we are one family, and instead of trying to be better than my father or my mother or whomever, I actually stand on their shoulders and hopefully represent a next generation that is a perfect imagery that they would want and would make them proud.
Hey, well, do you know what I mean? Knowing you as little and as much as I do already, I think your family will be certainly proud of the leadership and the contribution and also the legacy, I guess, that you're carrying on and creating, and as I said, taking to a next level. I mean, obviously, you know, from my perspective, I guess, I don't know if luck's the correct terminology, but I've got fantastic parents and you know, the same values were impressed upon me. You know, I always just felt that you had to contribute, you had to be genuine, you had to work hard and you know, treat people as you wish to be treated, so to speak. You know, that philosophy is do as you would be done by. And for me, that's been foundational in, I guess, my beliefs and my environment. But I guess some people aren't, in a way, as lucky as us. You know, they're not always born into a strong environment, but I guess it's learning that actually you can choose to change your environment as well.
There's no doubt about it. And I think it's about training yourself to be happy. I do believe that some people are genetically happier than others, and but I do believe that people have to work at it. You know, it's not a rainbows and sunshine world that we live in, and it does take effort, just like a relationship would take effort, to be happy and to make others happy. And I see it everywhere I go. I have enough happiness to go around the world. It's just who I am. I think it's a part of my DNA, and I'm happy to share it with whoever needs it. But that's my belief, is that the world has a chance of being the most peaceful place that we know of. And the only way to get there is to have connectivity where people are relentlessly happy and relentlessly cheering others on. And I see it every day, and that's why I can't stop. That's why I travel the world almost every day of the year.
John, I love that, and I think the key, to contribution and it's very rare nowadays. I think that people are showed appreciation, that people are told they're fantastic. I mean, even just going out of the way to hold the door open for someone, something as little as that, a little act of compassion, I think really does make a big difference. I mean, it's funny you mentioned, the rainbows and the sun. My youngest, Alana, recently drew me a fantastic picture of all the colours in the rainbow. In fact, it was an A4 sheet of paper with the most beautiful rainbow. I mean, she's only 4. And then she had also drew a little sun and a little rain cloud, because, as she said to me, you can't have a rainbow without rain and sunshine. And it's so true. I know that's that contrast, but it's also, I guess, always looking for the silver lining of the cloud of doubts, really, always looking for the sunshine past the rain. But you mentioned about you being a happy soul, and I've seen that, and I felt that myself, and I've been in that environment. But recently, I was with you in the UK, and you were sharing a story to thousands of people about how you made a choice to be happy. And do you know what? Through the adversity, I guess, you went through. I mean, can you maybe share that story with us and give people a little bit of an insight into, maybe your challenges as an early age, but how you chose to be happy, and in your DNA, you almost created that happiness?
Right. We talk about my family inspiration, but I think a lot of who we become is a learned reaction to the world that we live in. And when I was 4.5, moving towards 5 years old, it was Mother's Day weekend, Friday before, and I had a gift for my mother. She was there at the school to pick me up across the street, waved at me. I got so excited, as a 5-year-old or 4-year-old would do. I promptly ran across the street, struck by a car going 40 miles an hour, bounced off, I think, 7 or 8 cars, broke every bone in my body. And when I say every bone, it's pretty much every bone. And that experience of the ambulance to 2 months later getting out of the hospital changed my life forever. It was a week into my hospital stay. I was told by a doctor that the chances of me walking again are very slim. My pelvis was completely crushed, destroyed, pulverized is, I think, the word that he used. And they said, if you never walk again, you're going to have to learn how to take care of yourself. And during that period of time, I had to relearn how to speak. I did form a speak impediment at the time. I've obviously worked my way through that. But I really had to learn how to live again. And a week into my stay in the hospital, I was told that after, I believe it was multiple surgeries over 5 in less than a week,
Wow.
I was told I was going to get a hot bath. And I cannot tell you, after a week of pain and not having a bath, but then all of a sudden having one, it was one of those tiny little moments where I realized at a young age, I'm going to be happy for the rest of my life. It can't get any worse than this, and it can't get any better than a hot bath. So that's the beginning of that experience. The story is a much longer story, but to summarize it, I did learn how to walk again. I became a world-class soccer player, football, soccer player, and a world-class baseball player. And it turned out that the accident that pulverized my hips, my pelvis, actually turned out to be a good thing, because I ran faster than anyone on any team because my hips were not connected. And, just every experience like that in my life, when I get knocked down, that experience has taught me to get right back up and be better than I did the time before. And, we started this interview, this talk, this this fun time with family. And what's interesting is, even when my baseball career was coming to an end, I was blessed by meeting my wife, who we've been together almost 20 years. We have 3 wonderful children, and that was at the tail end of what I thought I was going to do for the rest of my life. I thought I was going to be a professional baseball player. I was well on my way and hit a road bump, and it turned out to be the greatest blessing that has ever happened to me. And so, one step by one step, I've gone from a little kid dealing with some things that you should never have to deal with, watching other people in your hospital room pass away at a young age. I was in the hospice area of the hospital, and so my friends would leave me for good on certain days, but you learn to appreciate the new friends who would take that person's place the very next day. And when you deal with that at such a young age, what else can get you down, right? Yeah, life is tough. Life is tough, but you keep going.
Jesse, it's great to hear you say that, because I think, tough times don't last. We've all heard this before, and I think it's what we focus on. And sometimes I think people focus on the depths of despair, and probably their focus will probably take them there. But I think when you're happy, when you're looking to contribute, when you're looking to influence happiness, it is about that philosophy of giving value without need of compensation, doing it because you love it. And you can always hear in your voice that you love to share that happiness, as you've already said. You love traveling, you love sharing, you love connecting with new people. From an early age, you were in a fabulous environment. Obviously, you as you said, your dad's your mentor. It's somebody you look up to, somebody you follow, and look to make proud. And I know your dad was instrumental in massive business growth for the family, and you're sort of taking that on, as I said, and taking it to the new level. I mean, for people that are looking to be entrepreneurs, for people that are already entrepreneurs or running a business, or looking to maybe learn something new. I mean, what would you say would be like I guess a summary of your system to success? There must be some kind of key areas of focus that you feel really make a difference. What maybe you've learned, what maybe was passed on to you as well, what you've cultivated. I mean, what would they be, John?
Well, it's a long list, but if I had to pick my top few, I would say you really want to be able to embrace failure, understand and learn from it. Never make those mistakes again, but you have to make them. You have to, because you will, like everything, you learn from pain, and pain imprints memory. And so without failure, you're never really going to understand what it takes. But from a daily regimen of mine, I barely sleep. I always claim it's because I sleep so well, but I only sleep 4 to 6 hours a night. I wake up every morning on a checklist. I always write it down. I don't trust my memory. So write it down and put a little box next to it and check it when it's done. But it really is an attention to detail. The ability to finish projects is perfectly correlated to your ability to focus on the details necessary to complete the task. And in many cases, tasks become irrelevant. You can be halfway through and you can say, well, it doesn't seem like this one's really important. But out of practice and repetition, you have to finish each project, because even if it ends up being one that is not as fruitful as others, you quickly find out that over time, this is an extremely important thing that I've learned. When you are a leader, when you are a charismatic leader, not 100% of the time do you truly understand how many people are watching you and watching your work ethic and watching your attitude. And the combination of work ethic and attitude are the two most contagious attributes of charismatic leadership. And it's one that is learned. People watch you. And they want to see if you get angry. They want to see if you finish your projects. They want to see if you are everything that they see. And it's unbelievable, but people learn by your behaviors. And so when you do everything to completion, and some are more successful than others, it's just how life is. But if you are consistent and you stay on top of it, you complete each task with everything you got, then what's going to happen is one day you're going to wake up, you're going to look behind you, and you're going to have an army. You're going to have an army that will do whatever is needed to make this project or this world a successful one.
It takes all of us to make any one of us successful, I guess, doesn't it? The power of the refined appreciation of the all of us.
There's no doubt. And you know what, just sitting here listening to you talk, everything that you and I are talking about is how you and I became friends, right?
Yeah.
You know, we came from two different places in the world, but we share so much. Our belief, our love for people, our belief and love for the growth of others is a relentless thing. And I think that's what brought us together, is our common goal of making the world a better place.
Oh, for sure. And I think a collective mission to continue to do so as we look to develop business and foundations, I guess, worldwide and influence in the many. I think, you know, it's funny. I mean, I know you travel the world and you come from obviously the US and, you know, a huge country. And it's funny, I was listening to something the other day and someone talked about, you know, how small the UK is. And it just dawned on me, you know, that the influence that's possible, you know, for my early stages of my life, you know, going back to when, you know, I started working as an entrepreneur and started learning to contribute and, you know, connect with people and look to make a difference, look to leave every encounter with a positive vibe, that kind of element of compassion. And it just dawned on me, you know, how big the world is, and sometimes people's thinking is smaller than what it should be, because do you know what, we can change the world. And, you know, even with an act of compassion every day, you know, compounded over time, following, you know, your leadership, my leadership, and other great people that are looking to influence people in a positive way and look for peace and look for a togetherness, look to create an extended family. You know, it's got to make a difference, John. It has to.
And it is. And you see many times in business or just in life, even sovereign states, much like what the UK is dealing with now with your recent vote, is that you find out who your true friends are, and even competitors. Like many of my good friends are my competitors, and I cheer them on as much as they cheer me on. But we all together make a huge difference. It is tangible. You can travel the world and see all of our work, hard at work. You know, if it's the villages in Africa that were built through foundations that we're involved in, or it's delivering clean water throughout the outskirts of China. You see our work. Now, we talk about it only because we want everyone to become involved, but we're not the only ones, and that makes me extremely proud.
So, I mean, you're involved with you know, quite a few companies in different areas, in different parts of the world, and from an entrepreneur, I know you're leading them with passion and purpose. You know, I know recently a company was named after you, JR Networks, and I just think that's flipping fantastic, and it shows appreciation. But, you know, knowing that obviously you're contributing on another level as well and looking to make a difference. I mean, for me, I guess that's something that I really want to get involved in and take to a new level, to get involved with, you know, contributions, you know, helping schooling of people that are, I guess, underprivileged and underappreciated in many parts of the world.
I call it reality, in that you and I can talk about the secrets of success, but there is reality. There are communities, there are countries around the world that desperately need our help. Yes, we make a significant amount of money, and I was always taught in my family, and we teach in our companies that the only reason we make a lot of money is that we can give it all away, and we can really make a big difference in this world. And there's no better feeling than the reality, which is there are people out there that desperately need our help, and you never know. You absolutely never know. The more people you help that need it, they grow up. They become lawyers. They become future charismatic leaders. And it's amazing how many come back and try to help or get engaged with what I'm doing today. And, you know, a lot of them I've never even met. But they'll write letters. They'll say they joined one of my companies out of respect. And, you know, like I said earlier, it's an army. Yeah. And it's created in different ways.
Yeah, it's amazing. You know, you're the second person I've ever heard, you know, mention that about, you know, earning money to give it away. I mean, and saying it with such sincerity, because I remember it wasn't not so long ago. Amazing how things sort of come around so quickly. And I can't remember who it was particularly, but you're certainly the second person that's said, and it's along the lines of, what's the point of knowledge and money if you can't give it away? Because that's what you do with them, exactly. You know, and I just think that's fantastic. So, I mean, obviously all this influence you're having around the world, one of the proudest, I guess, opportunities you have to influence, I guess, like your father and your mum have had with you, but how yourself and your wife get to influence your 3 children to, I guess, be their best in their quests. And, you know, that must feel fantastic, John.
It is, and everything we've talked about so far today, I think, apply to family. I have 3 kids, 14, 11, and 10 years old. They're so different, as many of us share that same kind of dynamic with our kids. One needs more in one category than the other. But one thing that I know that we deliver is a loving family atmosphere where hard work does pay off. You do not have to be perfect. The T-shirt that we wear at our family reunion says, my journey to being perfect took longer than I thought. And that's a T-shirt that we always wear, because none of us are perfect. And the ability to embrace that in each other and cheer each other on. I do think, you know, I'm a little biased, but I do think my little family is pretty special. And the ability to take them with us on our travels and see all of our hard work paying off, our foundation work paying off, it's kind of what life is all about. It's why we're here.
Yeah, for sure. Do you remember actually the first time me and you spoke in Birmingham, the UK? I remember you telling me a story. It was about you. I think it was your eldest, your 14-year-old, had managed to somehow, with his friend, get on a flight to California? Was it South Florida? And
it's actually to where I am right now.
Oh, fantastic!
It was a year ago, south of time. Yeah.
I remember you telling me, and it's so difficult, because I remember you was discussing, and obviously, you know, there was that communication, and they'd managed to fly, and it was almost that element of, you couldn't really be angry with them, because there was an element of proud to have the guts to do something like that, to jump on a plane. It's just fantastic. But I guess, you know, having that guts comes from having a gutsy family, a gutsy father, someone that's leading the way.
Well, I appreciate that, and since this is recorded, my wife will be really mad at me. But you know, I was so proud, because it's everything I was taught. He was taught, is to be self-sufficient, be able to take care of yourself, not necessarily get on a plane and fly halfway across the U.S. However, he got there safely, got to where he needed to be. Oh my goodness. I hope he doesn't listen to this.
It's just fantastic though, isn't it? But hey, you know, fair play. He's got the strength and character to have the guts to do that. Hey, look, John, I know you're a really busy guy, and I think, you know, the guys that are listening to this show and will, you know, stumble across our show in days to come, I think are really going to enjoy listening to another really passionate guy that's really passionate about contribution. One thing, what for you as an individual, what is at the heart of all you do? What is the passion? What What is it that really keeps you up late, keeps you making your checklist, keeps you contributing? What is at the heart of everything you do? I know that's probably quite a big question, but what is it?
Well, I would say those moments on the stage where someone has come from the very beginning, fought their way to success, and it's the first smile that I see when they come onto the stage of how proud they are of their hard work. And I just feel like I played a tiny part in that. Every time, I'm kind of a junkie when it comes to that, is not being on stage, but being up there with the true winners in life and the people that actually made it happen. And I don't know if I could ever replace that. Maybe with my kids someday graduating from high school or university, but maybe having their own kids someday. But just the ability to watch people grow into independent business owners where they now control their future. It's just a priceless moment.
Hey, I hear you, John. I really do. And, you know, I think I'm 30... God, how old am I now? 38, 39. And do you know what? I grew up and I thought I was quite tough and strong. And, do you know, it's that emotional connection that when you dream together, you work together, you play together, you achieve together. When you see in people, just as you're explaining, you know, that smile, that sense of satisfaction of being proud of their achievement. You know, I find myself welling up. I'm like, God, what happened to this tough guy of the past? But it's emotions, and emotions is where we truly connect with people.
That's right. It's the proof that the soul exists.
Totally. Hey, John, look, I'm really grateful you've joined us on the Passion to Succeed show today, and I'm sure the listeners will be looking to, you know, connect with you at JR Network, see what it is you do, see what you lead in, see what your mission is, and I'm certainly pleased to have met you and to class you as a friend, and I'll look forward to sharing a glass of wine on that beach you're on with you someday. And hey, look, mate, have a great afternoon. Love to all of your family, and thank you very much for your time today. It's really appreciated.
Thank you so much. But anytime.
If you enjoyed today's show, we would appreciate it if you would like. Most people share through social media, then subscribe, rate and provide a review over at iTunes and SoundCloud. That's all for today. Thank you for joining us. The Passion to Succeed show is brought to you by passiontosucceed.com. Get over to the website, subscribe, and join the community of passionate people.